Welcome to video number 3. Video number 1 was an introduction to me. Video number 2 was an introduction to the course and who it is for. This video is to give you a breakdown of the modules that I will be covering so that you have a better idea of what to expect to help you decide whether you want to do this course or not. So I have I think 5 or 6 modules. The first one talks about what are brands. So this may sound very basic to people who are MBAs or who are familiar with or who have done mass communication like I have, but it can also unravel mysteries for everyone else because we all have notions of what a brand is. For example, something branded must be better, things like that. But a lot of people don't understand what brand strategy is and what brand building really entails and why does it need a strategist to build. So those are the mysteries I unravel. In the what, it could feel a little basic for people who already are familiar with brands, but that's one module it's one video which you'll have to bear with. It also covers some basic concepts such as what are brand guidelines and what's a brand playbook. The next module is the why of it. Why is brand building important? Again, here there is something new even for people who are familiar with brand strategy, is that the old idea or the traditional classic idea of why brand building is required has also undergone a change in the context of the evolving landscape, and that is what I cover in the why module, where I talk about what it is in the traditional textbooks and what it has become today also. So that will raise an interesting conversation and interesting discussion, and it helps us be relevant. The whole idea of this course is to tackle resistance to change and work towards relevance and be able to provide relevant unified strategy for brands across, keeping all the features of today's world in mind. So that's the why part. Then coming to the most important part, how. In case you had already guessed it, then great. So how are brands built? So in this part, I cover the basics of what the building blocks of a brand are. So for articulating a brand to begin with, if it's not already in place, then you have to have something like a brand key or an equivalent which encompasses on a one-pager what the brand is all about and the essence of the brand. And also if there are multiple entities within the brand, then you need to define the brand architecture and the relationship of every brand. Architecture is all the brands in the house or in the company, how they relate to each other, whether they are related at all, or so there's a science there that's called brand architecture, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. So I'll just break that down, and of course deciding what architecture to choose is the complicated part, but the theory is not that complicated. But I'll just introduce you to these two aspects: the brand key, the brand identity, and the brand architecture. This articulates what the brand is. The next part is ongoing strategy. The brand is set, but what is the role of a brand strategist or anybody in the communications field is to solve problems either at an annual level or solve or cater to goals, business goals, at an annual level or at knee-jerk immediate levels as per requirements. How do you approach and how do you arrive at a strategic idea or a strategic solution from the problem which comes to you or from the goal which is told to you? So I break down that process and then I further elaborate on every step of that process. So that's the next module. It again comes under how. So the how module is the longest. At every point I touch upon how it was and how it needs to be, if not that it is already. So those things I cover. And then I talk about some strategy tools which are used to apply. Again, these are classic and some of them are devised by me through my work experience. So there is something called scenario planning. There are books on it, but that's something I touch upon. Scenario planning is very pertinent because it talks about keeping in mind the future, and the future is what we are trying to tackle, because the future is in the present at every given point of time. It's moving so fast. So there's scenario planning. There is what I call the sweet spot method, which different people operate, but that's the I'm calling it that. There's also a necessity to be creative in strategy, because there's a lot of sameness and there's a lot of competition. So sometimes being better will be tough, and at those times being different is what helps. So how to be different? You need strategic creativity. So there are two ways that I have put forward to be able to do that I cover in the course. How to be creative in your strategy. There's perspective planning and there is cross pollination. So some people have already understood what I'm talking about, but getting deeper into it will happen if you take up this course. And then I do a very important module on how the new communications landscape and the new world itself, the way people operate, everything, the way people think and behave, everything has changed. So how all these things has impacted brand building, that is something that I cover, and that is also an overarching theme in my book. So that is something that I cover in this module. And then I talk about what is new age planning, the key characteristics of a new age planner. Like if you check mark these key characteristics, then you know that you are a strategy planner ready for the new age. So that is something that I put forward in the next video. And then I finally end with talking about what makes a good strategist, how to be a good strategist, how to keep growing as a strategist. And these are things that I have gathered from watching the greatest strategists in the country that I have grown up watching in the industry. So I have put that down. In this section, I also share resources, what books to read, what podcasts to listen, what pages to follow, and also what habits to inculcate and what choices to make to be a better brand strategist for your business, for the business that you're working for, or for yourself as an individual, irrespective of whether you are a brand strategist by profession.